Welcome everyone to the SPI Global Meditation. We timed today so that our friends in the Antipodes or Australia and New Zealand could also attend. And today we're going to do the second principle. We're doing a series each week on the principles. Last week we did mindfulness. Today we're going to do mind, body, spirit, holism. These principles are from Ron Kurtz, who was the founder of the Hakomi method, and he was the teacher for Pat Ogden and myself. So we want to thank him for these first 5 principles, and then the 6th principle we'll describe later. So in this method, Sensorimotor Psychotherapy, mind, body, spirit, holism refers to the different levels of the self that affect each other, even though they have a different logic on each level. So what I mean by that is, if you're studying the level of thought or cognition, the mental level, working with negative beliefs and so forth has its own logic. So if you hear somebody talking about something and they have a negative belief about themselves or the world, then there's a whole logic to how you could work with negative beliefs. When you work with emotions, it's different logic. It's not just, finding the negative whatever and trying to change it that way. You actually have to go into the feeling of the emotion. And then the next level would be just the body itself. And then the last piece that we'll explore is one version of spirit. Of course, everybody has their own version. So this is just one version, which will be mindfulness or pure awareness. So we'll be looking at those 4 levels. The first 3, I'm going to ask you to stay sitting. And then for the last, when we go to the body level, I'm going to ask you to stand. And we'll still be in mindfulness, but we'll be doing some stuff from the standing position. So I just wanted to warn you. Okay, so we'll begin the meditation practice now, the mindfulness practice. So let's close our eyes. And just notice the speed and quality of your thoughts. If your mind is racing, and the pace of your thoughts might be very quick or very slow. You might even notice what kind of content keeps going through your head, a sound in the background, a thought about something you have to do, just noticing that. And notice where your awareness is in your body when you're mainly on the mental level, mind level, the cognition level. So for most of us, that's going to be kind of in our upper head area, but just wherever you notice your awareness in your body when you're in the mental kind of mode. And notice what the connection between your mind and your body is like when you're on the mental mode. And it doesn't have to be very much. Maybe it doesn't feel like there's a big connection between mind processing and the body. And then we're going to drop down a level, and in some cases, perhaps a brain dropping down a level to the level of emotions. And let's notice in our bodies where we go to connect with emotions. It could be in your throat area, could be in your heart area, your solar plexus, or your belly. And let's actually place a hand there wherever you notice it. I'm actually going to use 2 hands. And just start to bring your awareness down to the level of wherever your hand is on your body. And start to move from the mental level to the emotional level. And notice what you're tuning into when you go to the emotional level. If it's a kind of energy or vibration, or even tension or heat. And if that energy is quite concentrated in a particular area or more generalized in your body, And notice that emotional processing is different for you than, say, mental processing, where we just were with thoughts. And it may even feel like a different speed, almost like a different time zone. Like when you go from mental to emotional, a slowing down inside in your inner pace. And just tuning into that first level of emotions that comes up. Maybe they're kind of more superficial, maybe social kind of emotions. And then you may feel a deeper level of emotions that are more abiding. Might even be deeper in your body. And just feel that wavelength of emotions. And how it's different than maybe when you're tuned into your mental thoughts. Different speed and maybe a different area of your body. So again, just checking in where you've placed your hand or hands on your body to check in with emotions. Maybe it's changed a little bit the last few minutes. And notice if your inner speed has begun to slow down as you check into emotions. And notice the effect when you check into emotions on your mental speed and how you feel in your body. So just feel how, even though we're primarily tuning into emotions, it has an impact on your mind and your body. Perhaps your mind speed is slowed down a little bit, and your awareness is somewhat in your body, checking into emotions. Okay, and now we're going to go from emotions and emotional processing into sensorimotor or body processing. So I'm going to ask everybody to slowly come to standing. You'll see why in a moment. And just stand with your feet at a comfortable distance for balancing. And we're going to explore moving from emotional and mental to sensorimotor or body processing by studying a little bit of voluntary micromovement and involuntary micromovement. So to start with, we'll do voluntary micromovement and just slowly, a 1/16 of an inch at a time, begin to turn your head on its axis to the right, and do it so slowly that you can actually feel the muscles and tendons in your back of your head or the side of your head and the back of your spine engaging to turn your head. That's voluntary micromovement. And now we're just going to let go and let your body find its own way back to forward. And this is the involuntary micromovement. Just letting your head go. This is an exercise from Emily Conrad Dode, the founder of Continuum. And just letting your head go. There might be some nodding in your head, a feeling of unwinding And just let your head find its own way back to center. And as you just follow your head, slowly finding its own way back to forward through involuntary micro movement, notice all the other levels of involuntary micro movement that are occurring in your body right now. In the bones and muscles in your feet, and rebalancing, the involuntary movement in your knees, hip joints, the tilt and movement of the pelvic bones, your spinal column, one vertebrae at a time. You might feel the waves of movement going up and down your vertebrae as you balance and rebalance. Of course, the muscles in your head, neck, shoulders. Just noticing that even just standing still, relatively still, there's always involuntary micro movement in your body. And notice if tuning into the sensorimotor involuntary micro movement is different than tuning into emotions or your mind. And notice the impact tuning into the sensations and movement impulses in your body, how that impacts the emotional and the cognitive level. Just feeling that slight waves of movement through your body, balancing and rebalancing. And just for balance, let's slowly, millimeter by millimeter, turn your head to the left using voluntary micro movement. Just very slowly, slow enough that you can actually feel the muscles, the tendons engage in the side of your head, the back of your spine, down into your shoulder, turning your head. And then when you've gone as far as feels comfortable, just let go and let your head find its own way forward through involuntary micro movement. Again, there could be some nodding, some twisting, some involuntary movement in your head and neck. As your head and neck finds its own way back to forward. And again, noticing as you follow that involuntary micro movement in your head and neck, all the other levels of involuntary micro movement in your body. In your spine, your hips, your neck, your feet. So we have mind, body, and this principle is called mind, body, spirit, holism. So let's tune into one version of spirit, which is the observing consciousness. And just as you're noticing the waves of movement in your spine, feet, legs, just balancing and rebalancing your body, noticing that the observer is just receiving this information about movement impulses. And just let your mind rest in that observer. The sensations keep changing. The tilt of your head and neck keeps changing, but what stays the same is just resting in the observer, observing consciousness. And when you allow yourself to just rest in the observer, can almost be a little bit like a change in identity, like you're the observer, not the thinker. So just feel yourself resting in that observer. It's like a level of the self before you put on your personality. And this is a resource, this just resting in the observer, letting thoughts and emotions and sensations just come and go. You're present with everything that arises, but not identified with it. And then let's begin to slowly open our eyes, still resting in the observer. Just let the images fall into your eyes and the sounds fall into your ears. And just no resistance to whatever is arising. Thoughts, emotions, movement, and movement impulses. Just letting whatever arises come up. And just notice what, if any, is a resource about this experience of mindful awareness of your body. If there's some way that it's helpful to you. Perhaps your mind feels a little bit slower, more spacious, more accepting, perhaps. Maybe even a little bit more compassion for yourself or for others. Okay. So today's meditation was on the second principle from Ron Kurtz, which was Mind, Body, Spirit, Holism. And we're going to be doing this every week for at least another few weeks. So we're until we get to all the 6 principles. So we'll see you next week. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.